Welcome to Activate Your Introvert, the weekly radio show to uncover and unlock the entrepreneurial skills in your business. In this week's show, how to spot an introvert. Introvert myth of the week: ego is an extrovert thing. And an interview with personal brand expert Ian Moyse. 30 years ago, the British computer scientist Tim Berners-Lee published his plans for a World Wide Web. Happy birthday, Internet! How have we all changed the way we appear as a result of the Internet? Before the Internet, personal brand was probably what people thought of you. Now it's more about what they think of you before they even meet you. So this week, I'm talking to personal brand expert Ian Moyse. Ian is a long-term sales leader in this tech sector. He's sat on the boards of a number of related industry bodies and built many new business sales teams in startups and large corporates. He's even been awarded UK Sales Director of the Year by the British Excellence in Sales Management Awards. Just before speaking to Ian, an idea to help you manage the introverts in your team. It's all very well me recommending you treat introverts differently. I don't, by the way. But what if they're hiding in plain sight? This Western model of business success is in some ways an extrovert-driven one, so it should be no surprise that some people will try to behave in extrovert ways, but that doesn't help them be as productive as they might. So how do you spot an introvert that's hiding in plain sight? This isn't an exclusive list, nor is it right to say that somebody is an introvert simply because they're doing one of these behaviours. But the more somebody does, the more they might well be introverted. Are they introspective? Introverts tend to be more introspective. Are they more self-aware? Many extroverts are also self-aware, but I do see greater self-awareness among introverts. Do they think before talking? Good sign of internal processing. Do they listen more, as introverts tend to be good listeners? Do they enjoy one-on-one conversation more than group conversations? Of course, I could add some more there, but this is just a quick start to give you a flavour of ways to think about spotting introverts. Do let me know what tip you'd like to activate the entrepreneurial skills in your business, or what introvert myth you like exposed. Drop me an email, give me a call, or add it as a comment to your review in the iTunes store. I'd love to hear from you. But now, it's time for this week's interview. Welcome, Ian.
Hi, good morning. How are you doing?
I'm really cool, thank you. One of the things I ask all my guests first is, are you an introvert or an extrovert? And more importantly, what does that mean to you?
So that's an interesting one, I think, because I would describe myself as an introvert who behaves like an extrovert. And I'll tell you why. I've always, when I was growing up, I was always shy, never the one to step out and be in the limelight. But when I moved into sales, it's almost like there's two sides to me, right? The personal side, people would say he's definitely an introvert. I believe in the work side, people would say probably an extrovert, because he always steps up and says, I'll present, I'll speak. But that's because I've trained myself to get over that barrier. And there's the personal me and there's the work me. And the work me, by the nature of the role I have, to be an introvert in that would be extremely difficult. You could do it, but you're going to miss a lot of opportunities. And so, like you'd argue that doing this, how could I be an introvert? But I've trained myself to do speaking. And I did that the hard way by volunteering for speaking gigs and doing them again and again. The same for podcasts over COVID. Podcasts sort of appeared to me as another medium. So I volunteered for some, and I've done lots and done more. And I get more comfortable at the medium. Being in front of a camera, I'm used to, because I've done it a lot. But it doesn't change inherently who I am. So I would describe, I'm still an introvert who has learned to behave like an extrovert where it is required.
Brilliant, thank you. Now that makes a whole load of sense as well. So we were talking about personal brand earlier. Just before diving into that, what is personal brand?
Personal brand is, how does the world perceive you? So if you're not on the internet and you have no profile anywhere on any LinkedIn, Facebook, etc., you have no personal brand in effect, apart from the people that know you personally and what they think of you. The reason you can give it this moniker, this label, is you can now control the perception people have of you in that extended world. And that's through the beauty of the web. First thing is you search your own name in Google and see what's found. And that's your personal brand today. So if it comes up with things you don't like to see, then that's how people will perceive you. You've got to assume, in my opinion, that the first impression will be digital.
So for anybody in business, whether it's their own business or whether they are aspiring to develop their career, in large corporations as well, you need this personal brand.
And it's not just for your customer, it's for anyone that might look you up. Unfortunately, by the nature of what we've all experienced in the state of the world, there are a lot of people looking for jobs that weren't before. And it's a very competitive market because of that reason. Do you not think that the first impression that a recruiter or an HR department or the individual hiring manager may have would be, here's 5 candidates that have been shortlisted for me, is to quickly check them out on social? Let's say 3 of them look fantastic, 2 of them can't find anything or find negative information that wasn't on the CV. So think about this. Previously, you would provide a CV in that scenario, and there's the controlled information you're getting about me. I have decided what to present, and that's what you get. Yes, you can ask questions when you then go through the process, but the questions inevitably come from what I've provided you and what you would already have as questions from your side.
So when an introvert is thinking about their personal brand, what should they be doing to create or build or whatever? What should they be considering when it comes to personal brand?
Well, the great thing for an introvert is you're at no disadvantage, right? It's not about being nervous about speaking or wanting to hold back. You're doing it at a keyboard, number one. Number two is the product that you're creating a brand for, you know better than anyone on the planet inherently. You are the product. So how would you represent you as a product? And that's from the photo you use, your profile photo, you choosing one that gets the best reaction. I won't go into it now and use lots of time, but go and check a site out called photofeeler.com where you can test your photo for free. By voting on other people, you get free credits, you can do yours, and it will tell you how people out there are viewing your photo. That's why I used the photo I did, and I chose to change it because the one I was using previously compared to the one I use now, this one gets a much higher result. It makes me look more authentic, more trustworthy, etc., according to independent people who don't know me.
Is this about creating a persona that's not real, or is this?
No, absolutely not. It's about creating, for social media, you've got to be authentic, because the minute you're not authentic, it will come back and bite you later. So no, it's about being authentic, but it's about putting that across. It's about putting something in the public domain that represents you professionally, authentically, in the best light. And often I've reviewed people's profiles for them and said, okay, and I've asked questions. They've gone, oh yeah, no, I did some certifications in that. That's not on your profile. Oh, I didn't think I'd put it on there. Well, that goes down here, down the bottom. And have you ever done things for people where they've said, oh my gosh, fantastic job, Sue, fantastic job, Bob. And they go, oh yeah. You looked after customers in the past. Yeah, I've had loads of people say I do this for them. It's really great. Okay, there's no recommendations on your LinkedIn profile to say that. So how does your brand gain benefit from that based on the values there, but you're not showing it? Go and ask those people. Go and reach out now, even if it was 2 years ago. Do you remember we did that? Someone's just advised me that I should be doing this. I hope you don't mind. Do you remember you said something great? Would you mind? And most people go, of course not.
Yeah,
most people are there to help people, right? And are helpful, where it's not, if you ask me for a little bit of help and it's a little bit of my time, give value to you, and you've genuinely earned that, they'll give you it. And I'm tuning mine all the time. It's lots of 5-minute jobs. Nurturing.
So your personal brand is going to be how you are perceived by the world. You can steer the direction that that's going to appear, obviously through all the things like the social platforms. Would it be fair to say that the way you come across is important too? Because you said this authenticity thing. So if I've set out a brand that looks like this, but I come across differently, obviously that will be inauthentic. And where I'm getting at with this one is, I know that many introverts prefer email and, shall we say, quieter communication forms, and yet we might be encouraging them to appear more dynamic in their brand. Is email the best platform? How should we think about that?
So there's a difference between communication and conversation. And there's a danger, particularly during what we've experienced with COVID, I think that a lot of people are becoming keyboard driven. And particularly when someone sends you that communication to instigate a discussion, right? So if you get an email, or you get in business a Slack message or an instant message on Facebook, whatever the platform is, if you get an electronic typed message, I would challenge everyone to think the default you probably take the majority of the time, if not all the time, is to reply on the same platform. It's an interesting experiment. Send someone an email, you'll get an email back. Send someone WhatsApp, you get a WhatsApp back. How often do you send them a WhatsApp and get an SMS back or a phone call? So one of the things I invoke to people to think about is consider changing the channel where appropriate. Because too often, and I've trained myself recently to do this because I'm guilty of this as well, it's very easy to fall into, where I will see some communication come through, whether it be Slack, whatever it's on, there's an electronic written communication, and I'll immediately go to start typing. I catch myself starting to type back, and I pause and think, actually, this is better to have a conversation about it because I know what's going to happen. This is complex, or it could be if I really understood what
and it can just bounce around for ages.
You misunderstand things and you answer the wrong question, not malintentionally, but it happens. So I've looked at it and thought, actually, I'm answering the question, but now I'm wondering, do they mean this?
So you'd encourage introverts to change the channel, pick up the phone.
Conversation is, and right now with the psychology of what's going on in the world, why wouldn't you want to have a conversation? Why wouldn't you break your day up?
Ian, we are running out of time, I'm afraid. The best conversations always do. Just before we go, could you give us one quick tip for an introvert to, shall we say, improve the way they come across to the world?
Consciously, as I did many years ago, realize you're an introvert. It doesn't mean you have to become an extrovert, but realize that and consciously think when you have an interaction of, shall I try and have a conversation this time? Shall I try and be an extrovert in this time because it needs it? Doesn't mean change totally, it just where appropriate, as I do.
I also have a lot of non-introverted listeners who look for tips to help them to get the most out of the introverts in their team. Any thoughts there?
Don't ignore them because of it, but approach them in a different manner and don't force them into being in a place they don't want to be. And I think that's the biggie.
Brilliant.
People often miss the first gate of understand.
So understand and then understand, ask, but don't force them into a place.
That would be my suggestion. Yeah.
I'm sure that some of the listeners will want to get back in touch with you to explore this further, Ian. What's the best way for them to do that?
Cool, thank you. So I've personal branded all my social profiles. I'll give you one to go to, which is ianmoyse.co.uk, which will take you straight to my LinkedIn profile.
Brilliant. And I'll put that on the sleeve notes for the show. Thank you very much for your time. It's been great talking to you.
Pleasure. Thank you.
And now it's time for Introvert Myth of the Week. Those crazy stories that I hear and you hear, but some people actually believe. Ego is an extrovert thing. Yes, I know one of the many things that introverts dislike is people with big egos, taking those egos out and waving them around the room. It's easy to think of big ego people as being extrovert, but the two are separate. Let's consider introvert or extrovert is about people energy and processing. Somebody with a big ego has an undue sense of self-importance or believes herself to be innately superior and acts in ways which could be considered as arrogant or self-centered. But why do I raise this one? 1, to reduce typecasting, and 2, if you're an introvert with a big ego, it may be stopping you from performing. Your introvert ego is trying to maintain the ideal image of you, that you're perfect in every way. And if you take an action and fail, it threatens this ego, this ideal image of yourself. Hence, you only ever do things or make decisions where you're almost certain of the outcome. That may be making you more risk averse, which of course many people think is an introvert thing. So, when you feel your ego trying to protect you, ask if you really want to learn something instead. Thank you for listening to Activate Your Introvert, and I hope you've enjoyed this week's episode. I'd love to see your reviews on the iTunes store. Thank you once again, and catch up with you next week.